Choephori. Written by Aeschylus. Narrated by Kira Grace. Dramatis Personae. Orestes. Chorus of Captive Women. Electra. Clytemnestra. Aegisthus. Pylades. Nurse. Attendant. Scene. The royal palace in Argos, as in the previous tragedy. The tomb of Agamemnon is seen in the orchestra. Orestes and Pylades enter in the garb of travelers. They approach the tomb. Orestes ascends the steps. Choephori. Orestes.
Thee shade-escorting Hermes I invoke, in Hades guardian of my royal sire. To me, thy suppliant, be saviour thou, my firm ally, for to this land I come exile no more. On this sepulchral mound, Father, I call thee, hearken to my cry. A primal lock as nurture gift I vowed to Inachos, and now the second lock, grief's token. Father, I devote to thee, for absent from thy funeral obsequies, I could not then as mourner wail thy death, nor speed with outstretched hand thy royal bier.
The chorus, arrayed in mourning costume, come forth from the palace. Electra closes the procession.
What sight is this? What company of women is wending hitherward in sable weeds conspicuous? What disaster bringeth them? Doth a new sorrow fall upon our house? Or rightly may I deem that to my sire they bear libations, soothing to the dead. I must be so, for yonder, as I think, steering this way, Electra comes, my sister, signal by depth of woe. O grant me, Zeus, to venge my father's death. Be thou to me ally propitious. Now, my Pylades, stand we apart, that I may clearly learn what may import this suppliant female train.
They conceal themselves. While the chorus encircle the tomb, they sing the following ode. Chorus, Strophe 1. Sent from the palace, forth I tread, libations bearing to the dead, guiding, with hands swift clapped, a doleful train. Marred is my cheek with many a gory stain. Nail-ploughed each new-cut furrow bleeds. My heart on cries of dolor sateless feeds, rending my flaxen-tissued vest, with smileless passion uncontrolled. Grief doth my sorrow-stricken breast dismantle of the garment's decent fold. Antistrophe 1. For shrill of voice, hair-bristling fear, in Atreus' household vision seer, breathing forth rage and sleep, at dead of night from the recesses of these royal halls, rang out a cry of wild affright that heavy on the women's chambers falls, and dream interpreters proclaim, pledged to the truth in heaven's name, that unavenged neath earth the slain against their slayers wrathfully complain. Strophe 2. Such graceless grace against the threatened ill devising cure, O fostering earth, the godless woman sends me to fulfill, to speak the words prescribed I dread, for when blood hath once been shed, falling to earth, what ransom can be paid? Woe for the sorrow-stricken hearth, woe for the home in ruin laid. Sunless, of men abhorred, a murky cloud doth through the master's fall into the dwelling shroud. Antistrophe 2. The majesty invincible of old, matchless, supreme, who filled the ear of faithful lieges and their heart controlled, standeth aloof. Fear reigneth now, for to prosperity men bow, which they as God, aye more than God, revere. But justice strokes some swift doth whelm in light who dwell, in others wait, lingering their woes in darkness glimmering realm, others sheer night enshrouds in blackest fate. Strophe 3. When nurturing earth is blood-drenched, low fixed is for aye the vengeance-crying gore, and he who shed it, paying 8 score, doth burgeon out in all-entangling woe. Antistrophe 3. The bridal couch if man profane, hopeless is cure, though in one common flood to purify the hand defiled by blood, all streams commingling flow, they flow in vain.
Apode. But for myself, through heaven's command, The captured city's due my share, led hither from my native land. 'Tis mine the menial's lot to bear, their acts, whose will my fortune sways, just or unjust, I needs must praise. Beneath my vest's grief's anguished throes shrouding, I quell my bitter hate, while numbed in heart by secret woes, of my true lords I weep the hapless fate.
Electra. Ye captive women, you who tend this home, send ye our present to escort me these lustral rites. Your counsel now I crave. How, while I pour these offerings on the tomb, speak friendly words, and how invoke my sire? Shall I declare that from a loving wife to her dear lord I bear them? From my mother? My courage fails, nor know I what to speak. Pouring libations on my father's tomb, or shall I pray, as holy wont enjoins, that to the senders of these chaplets he requital may accord, aye, meed of ill, or with no mark of honor silently, for so my father perished, shall I pour these offerings, potions to be drunk by earth, then tossing o'er my head the lustral urn, as one who loathed refuse forth has cast, with eyes averted, back retrace my steps. Be ye partakers in my counsel, friends, for in this house one common hate we share. Through fear hide not the feelings of your heart, for what is destined waits alike the free and him o'ermastered by another's hand. If ye have aught more wise to urge, say on. Chorus. Thy father's tomb revering as an altar, since thou commandest, I will speak my thoughts. Electra. Speak, as my father's tomb revering. Chorus. Poor, high claims uplifting for the wise of heart. Electra. But of our friends whom thus may I address? Chorus. First name thyself who so hates Aegisthus. Electra. Then for myself and thee pour I this prayer. Chorus. Hearing my words, do thou interrupt them. Electra. Whom else to number with this friendly band? Chorus. Think of Orestes, though in exile still. Electra. 'Tis well, not vainly hast thou prompted me. Chorus. Not for the guilty, mindful of his death. Electra. What shall I say? Unskilled, instruct me thou. Chorus. Pray that to them may come or god or mortal. Electra. As judge or as avenger meanest thou? Chorus. Say plainly, who shall death with death requite? Electra. May I the gods thus pray nor impious be? Chorus. How not requite an enemy with ill? Electra. O powers above the earth and powers below, herald supreme, escorter of the shades, Hermes, now summoned to attend my prayer, the guardians of my father's house, dread powers, throned in the netherworld and mother earth, who all things bringeth forth, who fosters all, and doth of all receive again the germ, and I, libations pouring to the dead, thus pray, my sire invoking, pity me, and dear Orestes pity, how shall we rule in our palace home? For sold, alas, by her who bare us, we as outcasts stray, while for Aegisthus, complice in thy death, her lord she bartered, slavish is my lot, Orestes exiled from his wealth, the while revel the twain, exulting in thy toils, that home Orestes may at length return, by glad success escorted, I implore. Give ear, and grant me, father, to become sounder of mind by far than is my mother, with hands more pure. For us these orisons, but for thy foes, father, this prayer I urge, that justice, thine avenger, may appear, so that thy slayers may in turn be slain. For them an evil utterance I pour. To us upsend these blessings from below, with gods and earth and justice conquest crowned. Over such prayers, libations low, I pour. Yours be it now, lifting the solemn wail, to crown with dole the pawn of death. While the chorus sings the following ode, Electra ascends the steps of the tomb and pours the libation. Chorus, Strophe. Drop ye for the dead, tears with pattering sound, lustral rain is shed o'er the hollowed mound, from the pure which screeneth bale, while the powers of evil quail. Hear, O Master, at thy tomb, whispered sounds from sorrow's murky gloom. Antistrophe. Now in measured flow tune the notes of woe. When will warrior brave, war god strong to save houses in the dust laid low, hurl the spear from horned bow, wing the arrow's deadly flight, or wield the hilted brand in closer fight? Electra. These earth-drained offerings hath my sire received. She perceives the lock of hair laid by Orestes. Ha! This new wonder ponder now with me. Chorus. Speak ye, yet palpitates my heart with fear. Electra. Laid on the tomb this lock new shorn I see. Chorus. Shorn from what man, or what deep-girdled maid? Electra. Who here will guess may easily divine. Chorus. Although the elder I from thee would learn. Electra. There is but one who could have shorn this hair. Chorus. True, foes are they who with the lock should mourn. Electra. And further, it is like, yea, very like. Chorus. Like what? Like whose? That I am fain to learn. Electra. In sooth, I find it greatly like mine own. Chorus. Then should it be Orestes' stealthy gift? Electra. The semblance of his clustering locks it bears. Chorus. But hither how could he have dared to come? Electra. He this shorn lock hath sent to grace his sire. Chorus. Not less be wept by me what now thou sayest. If living, he may never tread this land. Electra. Rolls o'er my heart a surge of bitterness. Smitten am I as with a piercing shaft, and from these eyes, while gazing on this lock, the thirsty drops of sorrow's wintry flood flow unrestrained. For how may I conceive that other of the townsmen owns this hair? And certes, she who slew him sheared it not. My mother, all unworthy of the name, who towards her children bears a godless mind. Yet how with full assurance may I call this offering his, dearest of mortal men? Orestes, still hope fawns upon my heart. Alas, oh had it, herald-like, a friendly voice, so I by doubt no more should be distraught. Then had it clearly counselled me this lock to loathe, if severed from a foeman's head, or else akin to me had shared my grief, gracing this tomb, an honor to my sire. Chorus. But let us call upon the gods who know in what dire storms, like sailors, we are whirled, since if by them our safety is ordained, from tiny seed may spring a mighty stalk. Electra, descending the steps of the tomb. And lo, these traces, yet another sign, footprints that tally with my own, and see, two diverse outlines are impressed, his own, and also of some fellow wayfarer. The impress of this foot, from heel to toe, thus measured hath the symmetry of mine, travails my heart, disordered is my wit. Orestes, approaching her. Orestes.
Acknowledging to heaven thy prayers fulfilled, pray that the further issue may be blessed.
Electra. What have I won by favor of the gods?
Orestes. Thou seest those for whom thou long hast prayed.
Electra. How knowest thou for whom I raised the prayer?
Orestes. I know Orestes in thy heart enshrined.
Electra. And say wherein are now my prayers fulfilled?
Orestes. Myself am he, seek none than me more dear.
Electra. Stranger, around me wouldst thou weave some snare?
Orestes. Myself against myself would then contrive.
Electra. Wouldst thou mock at my calamity?
Orestes. I at mine own should mock, mocked I at thine.
Electra. Art thou Orestes, thou to whom I speak?
Orestes. Myself thou seest and discernest not, yet gazing on this lock of morning hair, and in my footprints marking well my track, thy fluttered thoughts did paint me to thine eye. This lock, thy brother's, like in hue to thine. Mark well, applying it whence it was shorn. Mark too this garment, by thy shuttle wrought, scenes of the chase, embroidered by thy hand. Be calm, through joy lose not thy self-control, for deadly are, I know, those near in blood.
Electra. O cherished darling of thy father's house, hope of our race, thou precious seed, long wept, trusting in thy strong arm thou shalt regain thy natal home. O name beloved, in which center 4 dear affections, for perforce, thee I must hail as father, and on thee love for my mother, justly hated, falls, and for my sister, pitilessly slain. My faithful brother hast thou ever been. My pride, my awe, only may strengthen right, with Zeus supreme, third Savior, aid thy cause.
Orestes. Zeus, Zeus, beholder be thou of these woes. Mark the young brood, reft of their eagle sire, who perished in the folds, the snaky toils of direful serpent. Orphaned they endure the pangs of hunger, not yet strong of wing to carry to the nest the eagle's prey. So mayest thou behold us twain, myself, and her Electra, offspring sire bereft, thus doomed to common exile from our home.
Electra. And if of sire who greatly honored thee with many a sacrifice, thou slay the brood, whence from like hand wilt festive gifts obtain? As none, if thou the eaglet slay, henceforth to mortals will thy trusty omens bear. Nor, if all withered, shall this royal stock, on sacrificial days, support thine altars. O foster it and raise, from low estate, a house which now seems fallen utterly. Chorus. O children, saviors of your father's hearth, forbear, lest someone should o'erhear your words, and all, with gossip-loving tongue, rehearse to those in power, whom dead I fain would see blazing mid spiriting pine woods' pitchy brands.
Orestes. Of Loxias the mighty oracle will not betray me, urging me to brave this peril, oft exhorting me, and 'gainst my inmost reins tempestuous ills denouncing, failed I to chase my father's murderers, stripped bare and goaded on by forfeiture. He bade me slay them as my sire they slew, declaring I should else atonement make with my own life and many grievous woes, for earth-born medicines that to other mortals are poison antidotes, shall in us twain, so he avers, show forth these maladies, a leprous canker, cleaving to the flesh, that eats with rancorous tooth the vital strength, and through disease blanches the youthful locks. Next of the Furies other dread assaults he pictured, springing from my father's blood, for the dark shafts of those beneath the earth, the slain who cry for vengeance to their kin, with frenzy wild and groundless fear at night, disturb and harass his distracted soul, who clearly in the darkness Phoebus sees to knit his brow. Thus from the town they chase the wretch all mangled with the brazen scourge. Moreover, to such caitiff is denied or festal cup to share, or solemn pledge, while from the altars, him, a father's wrath unseen excludes. Him may no host receive to cleanse, with purifying rite, from guilt, till friendless and dishonored dies the wretch, the shriveled prey of all destructive doom. Such oracles I needs must trust, and e'en mistrustful were I. Vengeance must be wrought, for many divers prompting mingle here. The gods command, heart sorrow for my sire, and indigence hard pressing these forbid that citizens, of mortals most renowned, who with heroic spirit wasted Troy, be slaves of women twain, for womanish his soul, if not, The issue soon he'll know.
Chorus. Ye mighty fates, and ye the great emprise, as right with heaven's high sanction hath decreed, let tongue of hatred pay back tongue of hate. Thus with her mighty utterance justice cries, due penalty exacting for each deed. Let murder on the murderous stroke await. Doer of wrong must suffer. This sage lore, tradition utters, trembly whore. Orestes, Strophe 1.
What word or deed of mine, father and blessed, can I from this confine waft to thy couch of rest, changing thy murky gloom into bright day? Nathless to grace thy tomb, welcome to Atreus' line, pour we the lay.
Chorus, Strophe 2. My son, the wasting jaws of fire quell not the spirit of the dead. Full late he manifests his ire, when mourned is he whose blood is shed. The slayer is revealed. In time, for slaughtered parents, righteous cry of orphans, raised unceasingly, availeth to search out the hidden crime. Electra, Antistrophe 1. In turn our tearful strain, O Father, hear. Hark how thy children twain wail forth their anthems drear. Exiles, we seek thy tomb. Sad, suppliant pair, say what of good is here, what hope relieves our gloom, triumphs despair. Chorus, Strophe. And yet, should so the god ordain, hereafter gladder notes shall sound, instead of this funeral strain, in palace halls shall ring amain, a pain to the dearly one newly found. Orestes, Strophe 3.
O hadst thou, 'neath Ilion's walls, but perished, by some Lycian spear transfixed my father to thy halls, glory bequeathing, while thy proud career a lustre o'er the path had shed which now in gloom thy children tread, beyond the wave by numbers reared, a mound, no birth into thy house, thou then hadst found.
Chorus, Antistrophe 2. Dear to the dear ones in the fight who perished nobly, thou hadst lain, with majesty arrayed and might, a king in Pluto's gloomy reign, serving the great ones who command in Hades, for an upper day king was he over kings, whose hand the fatal scepter wields which men obey. Electra, Antistrophe 3. Nay, father, under Troia's wall with other victims of the spear, what need for thee in death to fall, and near Scamander grace a foreign bier? O rather might the murderers twain themselves have met their death blow, slain by kindred hands, so from afar the tale had reached thine ear, shielded thyself from bale. Chorus, Misode. Richer, my child, thy words than gold, bliss Hyperborean they excel. It may not be, of scourge twofold the clang resounds. Already dwell 'neath earth your champions, here who reign have hands unclean, hateful to me the twain, them in more direful hate these children hold. Electra, Strophe 4. Like dart thy word of dread, piercing mine car hath sped. Zeus, Zeus upsending from below, late thine avenging blow, upon man's daring crafty deed, to parents thou dost deal their righteous meed. Chorus, Strophe 5. O be it mine to celebrate, triumphantly, the howl of pain, from caitiff smitten to the death, from woman yielding up her breath. For why the rage dissemble now that shakes my soul, at my heart's prow relentless gales of vengeful hate, and stormful rancor blow amain. Orestes, Antistrophe 4.
O that, with arm of might, to great Zeus, who guards the right, woe, woe, would strike the guilty pair. Come peace to this domain, just meed may the unjust obtain. Earth and ye powers of Hades, hear my prayer.
Chorus, Antistrophe. For law it is, when on the plain blood hath been shed, new blood must fall. Carnage doth to the fury call. Avenger of the earlier slain, she comes new ruin leading in her train. Electra, Strophe 6. O earth, and ye who rule below, behold, and ye dread furies of the slain, behold us outcast miserable twain, poor remnant of the Atreidae. whither go? O sovereign Zeus, what refuge from our woe? Chorus, Antistrophe 5. Throbbeth my woman's heart with fear, the while thy dirge mine ear assails. At one time hopeful courage wanes, and darkness o'er my inmost reins broods, as the doleful sound I hear. Then once again kind hope prevails. She with new strength uplifts my heart, and full of grace bids conscious grief depart. Orestes, Antistrophe 6. Can grief by flattery be subdued, or soothed by fawning? No, to quell the pain by parents' hate engendered, charms are vain. Like savage wolf that ravens for its food, tameless from birth is sorrow's torturing brood. Chorus, Strophe 7. With Aryan beat I strike my breast, my outstretched hands in wild unrest, with Kissian mourners' rhythmic woe, in quick succession to and fro, shower from all quarters blow on blow, while with the burly rings amain my battered head and my distracted brain. Electra. Cruel, all-daring mother, woe! Alas, his foeman bear his foe, a king, no trusty liegeman near, thy wedded lord without a tear, thou hadst the heart unwailed to send below. Orestes, Strophe 8. All the dishonor thou hast shown, therefore shall she our sire's disgrace atone. Far as the gods prevail, far as my hands avail, then may I perish when she lieth prone. Chorus, Antistrophe 8. Maimed was he, let this whet thy hate, and with like outrage him she did entomb, that for thy life his fate might be too sore a weight, such was thy father's ignominious doom. Electra, Antistrophe 7. Our father's lot thy words proclaim, while I, despised, a thing of naught, shut out like vicious cur with shame, forgot to smile, alone I sought solace in weeping, anguish fraught, hearing the tale my lips impart, grave it, my brother, on thy inmost heart. Chorus. Piercing thine ear, O may my word find access to the depths within. True is the tale, thy spirit gird to hear what yet thou hast not heard. Now with undaunted heart the strife begin. Orestes, Strophe 9. Thine aid, O father, to thy dear ones lend. Electra. Weeping sad tears, my voice with his I blend. Chorus. Our prayers in concert to the shades descend. Give ear, and rising to the day, against our foes join thou the fray. Orestes, Antistrophe 9.
Ares shall cope with Ares, right with right.
Electra. Ye gods, give justice, give righteous judgment in the fight. Chorus. Hearing your prayers, I tremble, hid in night. Tarries from eld the doom of fate, invoked it cometh sure though late. Orestes and Electra, Strophe 10. O curse that in our house doth reign, discordant eights, murderous blow, alas intolerable pain, alas for cureless woe. Chorus, Antistrophe 10. No foreign aid can bring relief, no, from yourselves the cure must flow, 'tis blood must staunch your household grief, so chant we to the gods below. Chorus, Leader. Here, blessed powers, beneath the earth our orisons attend, and with aspect benign, succour and conquest to these children send. Orestes.
My father, in no kingly fashion slain, to me, thy suppliant, grant to sway thy house.
Electra. I too, my father, need thy gracious aid, that scatheless I may work, agist this doom.
Orestes. So mortal men to thee shall dedicate the solemn banquet, else unhonored thou, when grateful wreak rich offerings to the dead.
Electra. Nuptial libations of my heritage I too will bring from the paternal home, and chief in honor will this tomb adorn. Orestes.
O earth, my sire upsend to watch the fray.
Electra. Persephone, O grant us fair success.
Orestes. Think, father, of the bath that reaved thy life,
Electra. Think of the net in which they tangled thee. Orestes.
In shackles not of brass wast snared my father.
Electra. Basely enveloped in the treacherous folds.
Orestes. Art thou not roused by these reproaches, sire?
Electra. Dost to thy dear ones not uplift thine head?
Orestes. Either send justice, allied to thy friends, or give them in like grasp thy foes to hold, if thou, o'erthrown, wouldst victor be in turn.
Electra. And hearken, father, this is my last appeal. Behold thy fledglings nestled on thy tomb. Pity thy progeny of either sex, nor Pelops' remnant seed exterminate. For thus, though dying here, thou art not dead. For children are as voices that prolong the dead man's fame. Like corks they float the net, the flaxen line upbearing from the deep. Hearken, for thine own sake this wail we raise. Thyself art saved in honoring this plaint. Chorus. Unblamed in sooth have ye your speech prolonged, due to his tomb and unlamented fate. But since to action now thy soul is braced, to work forthwith, put fortune to the test. Orestes.
So be it, yet not out of course I ask what mean these offerings. By what motive swayed, seeks she too late to medicine cureless bale? For to the dead, who heeds it not, she sends a sorry tribute. I divine it not. Her crime o'ertops the gift, for should we pour earth's treasures to atone for one man's blood, vain were the toil, so runs the ancient saw, but if thou knowest answer to my prayer.
Chorus. That can I, son, for I was there, by dreams, and troublous terrors of the night appalled, the godless woman sent these sacred rites.
Orestes. Heard ye the dream and truly can rehearse?
Chorus. She, as herself relates, a dragon bare.
Orestes. And what the scope, the issue of the tale?
Chorus. In swathing clothes she moored it as a child.
Orestes. What nurture might the newborn horror crave?
Chorus. She in her dream herself held forth the breast.
Orestes. How by the pest the nipple then unscathed?
Chorus.
With nurture milk it sucked the clotted blood. Orestes. Not vain the dream, but by her husband sent.
Chorus. In terror shrieked she, waking up from sleep, and many torches in the darkness quenched, gleamed through the palace in our mistress's aid. Libations to the tomb forthwith she sends, devising for her woe a sovereign cure. Orestes.
I to this earth and to my father's tomb pray that this dream be consummate in me, and as I read it, sooth, it tallies well, for if the snake, quitting the self-same womb, was girded straightway with my swathing clothes, and gaping round the breast that nourished me, sucked with my nurture milk the clotted blood, while she was in terror at the portent shrieked, clear is it as she reared the ghastly pest, so forceful must she die. I dragon-like myself shall slay her, as this dream declares, as augur of these portents thee I choose.
Chorus. So let it be, but now direct thy friends, these how to act or those aloof to bide. Orestes.
Here then, in brief, sister, go thou within, but these I counsel to conceal my plans, for as with guile an honoured man they slew, themselves with guile shall be entrapped and die in the same toils, foretold by Loxias. Apollo, Lord, no faithless seer of yore, for I, equipped for travel, with this man, with Pallades, will reach the outer gate. I as a stranger, he is ransom friend, familiar both with the Parnassian speech, the tongue of Phocis we will imitate. And if no friendly warder on the plea that by dire evils is the house possessed, will give us entrance we without will bide, until some passer guess our plight and say, if that Aegisthus knoweth, being at home, why 'gainst the suppliant doth he shut the door? Then if the threshold of the gates I cross, and him discover on my father's seat, or should he meet me face to face and set his eyes on me, ere he can speak the word, whence is this stranger? I will lay him dead, spinning his body round my nimble steel. The fury thus of gore insatiate shall blood untempered quaff. Third, crowning draught.
To Electra.
Go thou, keep watchful guard within the house, that all well-ordered filthy may combine.
To Chorus.
To you a tongue of wisdom I commend, to speak in season or from speech refrain.
To Pylades.
And for the rest let this man look to it, when in the strife of swords this arm hath won.
Exeunt Orestes and Pylades. Electra enters the palace. Chorus, Strophe 1. Full many a horror drear and ghastly earth doth rear, with direful monsters teems encircling ocean, meteors with threatening sheen, hang heaven and earth between, the tempest's wrath still raves with wild commotion. These and dire winged things, and things that crawl, thou mayest describe them all.
Antistrophe 1.
But man's audacious might what words can paint aright, or woman's daring spirit who may tell her passion's frenzied throes, co-mates of mortal woes, for love unlovely when its evil spell 'mong brutes or men the feebler sex befools, conjugal bands or rules. Strophe 2. Let him confirm the truth I sing, whose thoughts soar not on folly's wing, knowing full well that Theseus' daughter planned her fiery plot, child-murdering, wretched, who burnt her son's coval brand, born with him when he cried first from the mother's womb, like aged with him it died, when dawned his day of doom. Antistrophe 2. Needs must we loathe another dame, the bloody Scylla known to fame, who, lured by Minos' gift of fine-wrought gold, net gear from Crete, devoid of shame, Nisus his father to his foemen sold, deep-breathing, free from care, in slumber while he lay. Ruthless she cut the immortal hair, and Hermes seized his prey. Strophe 3. But since these direful woes have burst, untimely into song, be the foul wedlock too accursed, that doth this palace wrong, and cursed be the plot that snared by woman's brain devised, the armed chief who foemen scared, whom faithful lieges prized. Dear is to me the unstained hearth, and dear, in woman's hand, the unaudacious spear. Antistrophe 3. But first of woes in every clime, the Lemnian is deplored, and still the most detested crime as Lemnian is abhorred, branded with infamy by men, the impious disappear, for whom the righteous gods condemn, no mortal dares revere. The lore which thus we chant in choral strain, say ye, doth reason at her bar arraign. Strophe 4. Right through the lungs doth justice hand drive home the bitter steel, the majesty of Zeus they dared withstand, and to the ground with reckless heel trampled his high command. Antistrophe 4. Firm-based is justice, fate of yore forged weapon for the blow. Deep-souled Erinus doth in time restore the avenger to his home, and lo, of ancient blood he pays the score. Enter Orestes and Pylades with attendants, all in the garb of travelers. Orestes, knocking at the gate.
Boy, hear the knocking at the outer gate. Who is within? Hola, again I call. For the third time I crave a parley here, if that Aegisthus heeds the stranger's rights.
Attendant. Well, well, I hear. Who art thou, friend, and whence? Orestes.
Me to the rulers of this house announce, for unto them, bearer of news, I come. Haste, for night's dusky car rolls on apace, and time it is for weary traveller anchor to drop in hospitable home. Let one entrust, a woman-bearing rule. Come forth, yet more decorous were a man. For when by bashfulness the tongue is swayed, darkened is speech. Boldly man speaks to man, and tells his message forth without reserve.
Exit attendant. Clytemnestra comes forth from the palace with attendants. Clytemnestra.
Strangers, if aught ye need, say on, for here's whatsoe'er beseemeth halls like these. warm baths, the easeful couch that charmeth toil, the welcome presence too of honest eyes. But if your mission here doth counsel crave, 'tis men's concern, we will inform them straight.
Orestes.
From Phocis I, a Daulian stranger here, what time my home I left for Argos bound, starting on foot, with baggage self-equipped, a man to me unknown, as I to him, met me, inquired my route, and told me his Strophius, the Phocian, as in talk I learned. Stranger, he said, since Argos is thy goal, say to the parents, strictly mark my words. Dead is Orestes, grave it on thy mind, whether the counsel of his friends prevail to bring him home, or give him sepulture. Alien for I, bear thou their mandates back, for now the brazen urn doth shroud from sight the ashes of the hero duly wept. Such words I heard, and tell thee, if to those who hear bear rule I speak, kin to the dead, I know not, but 'tis meet his sire should know.
Electra. Woe's me, then are we utterly undone, O household fury, hard to grapple with, how many, though aloof, thou visitest, piercing with well-aimed arrows from afar, while wretched me thou hast stripped bare of friends. And now Orestes, who by lucky chance his foot from ruin's slaw had well-nigh freed, cancels by death our cherished hope, sole cure of the ill revelry that reigneth here. Orestes.
With hosts so richly dowered I fain had sought acquaintance and kind cheer, as the messenger bearing more welcome tidings, for what bond more friendly than of stranger to his hosts, yet not to consummate for friends a charge so weighty, deemed I an impiety, by promise bound and pledges of goodwill.
Clytemnestra.
Worthy regard not less shalt thou receive, nor have the less fair welcome to this house. Another all the same had brought thy news, but time it is that strangers who have made a day-long journey should their strength recruit.
To an attendant.
To the men's chambers usher him as guest, his escort too and fellow traveller. There be they tended as befits this house. Do ye my will as who must give account. Ourselves will to the rulers of this house impart the tidings, and not poor in friends. We will take counsel touching this mischance.
Exeunt all except the chorus. Chorus. Dear handmaidens, sisters dear, when, oh when, full-voiced and clear, shall we, for Orestes' sake, loud the joyous paean wake? Hallowed earth, O shrine revered, funeral barrow high upreared, o'er the naval hero king, now give ear, deliverance bring. Strikes the hour, persuasive guile enters now the lists, the while Hermes leads to watch the fight of murderous swords in subtle wile, Erinus, brood of night. Enter Calissa, the nurse, weeping. Chorus leader. This stranger, as it seems, is causing bale, for I behold Orestes' nurse in tears. Where wendest thou, Calissa, past the gates? Sorrow, I trow, unbidden goes with thee. Nurse. My mistress bade me summon with all speed Aegisthus to the strangers, that he may more clearly learn, as man from man, this tale newly announced, before the menial train. She, at the tidings by these strangers brought, 'neath mournful eyes a lurking smile hath veiled, exulting in events joyous for her. But to this house with direst issue fraught, but he no doubt will in his soul rejoice, hearing the tale. Alas, unhappy me! How did the ancient troubles hard to bear, whose blended horror darkened Atreus' house, with anguish pierced my heart, but ne'er before have I a sorrow like this endured. All other ills I patiently have borne, but dear Orestes, darling of my soul, whom from his mother's womb I fondly reared, whose piercing summons waked me up at night, and for whose sake full many a fruitless toil I bore ungrudging. For like lamb unweaned, the witless infant we perforce must rear according to its mood. How otherwise, for while in swathing clothes no voice it hath, when pressed by hunger, thirst, or nature's call, but wilful is each tender organ's play, such wants presaging, I, and oft deceived, as cleanser of his swaddling bands I ween. Fuller and nurse had common there, I thus installed in doubtful handicraft, the young Orestes for his father reared. O wretched me to hear that he is dead! But now I go, the spoiler of this house to seek. Right gladly will he learn the tale.
Chorus. And how equipped doth she then bid him come? Nurse.
How? Speak again that I may clearly know.
Chorus. Whether with bodyguards or all alone? Nurse.
Spear-bearing followers she bids him bring.
Chorus. Bear not this message to our hateful lord, but with all speed do thou with cheerful mien bid him approach, that fearless he may hear, for crooked word the messenger makes straight. Nurse.
How? Art thou, sound of mine, such tidings hearing?
Chorus. But haply Zeus a change-wind may vouchsafe. Nurse.
And how? Orestes gone, hope of the house.
Chorus. Not yet. Dull prophet might interpret here. Nurse.
What? Knowest aught beyond what hath been told?
Chorus. Go, bear thy message, do as we enjoin, what the gods purpose, that will they effect. Nurse.
Well, go I will, obeying thy behest, fair be the issue by the gift of heaven.
Exit. Chorus. Strophe 1.
Sire of Olympian gods, thy suppliant calls, O waft propitious fortune to these halls, dispensing justice with omniscient might. Bless thou my longing sight, this boon I crave, guard him, great Zeus, and save.
Strophe 2.
Him in these halls ancestral place, before his foemen bring them face to face. Him if thou lift to greatness, power divine, requital double, threefold shall be thine.
Antistrophe 1.
Of him whom thou didst love behold the sun, orphaned, a colt harnessed in sorrow's trace. Set thou a limit to his toilsome race. Grant him his course to run, with steps firm planted and well-ordered pace.
Strophe 3.
You too, frequenting the recess of wealth rejoicing homes, I now address. Here, ye consentient gods, through bloody deed retributive, wash out the gore. Dread heirloom from those slain of yore. Let murder in this palace cease to breed, when paid the bloody score.
Misodi. Thou tenant of the cave, great spirit, give to the hero to inherit his halls ancestral. May his eyes, fearless and bright, peer freely forth from sorrow's veiled night.
Antistrophe 3. May Maia's son, well versed in guile, upon the righteous cause propitious smile. Dark words and subtle speaking, he by night men's eyes o'ercloudeth, nor by day more manifest his secret way. Yet many a deed, in darkness veiled awhile, by him is brought to light.
Strophe 4.
The work achieved, we'll chant the glorious ode. Our woman's strain, propitious with the mourner's stringed refrain, shall ransom this abode. Then shall we own the sway of righteous laws. With Ate from our friends her curse withdraws.
Antistrophe 2.
When the fierce business must be done, when in thine ear she whimpers forth, my son, stealing thy heart, invoke thy slaughtered sire, and consummate unblamed the vengeance dire.
Antistrophe 4.
With heart of Perseus steadfast in thy breast, for the dear love of friends below the earth and friends above, complete the sacrifice. Within the house plant thou grim death, dire guest, and let the murderer forfeit murder's price.
Enter Aegisthus. Aegisthus. Not uninvoked I come, but hither called, for strangers, as I learn, are here arrived, bearers of news, unwelcome to our ears, Orestes' death, which charged upon this house, from former wound still ulcerate and sore, to me a burden were, dripping with fear. But say, these tidings must I hold for true, or rumors deem them, coined by women's fears, that aimless cleave the air and aimless die. Knowest thou aught that may my mind assure?
Chorus.
We have but heard, going thyself within, question these strangers.
Second-hand reports avail not as to our the tale oneself.
Aegisthus. Fain would I see the messenger and learn whether himself was present at the death, or if from blind report this tale he heard, a mind clear-sighted they will not deceive.
Exit into the palace. Chorus. Zeus, great Zeus, how frame my cry thine aid to win, how invoking thee on high my strain begin. For anon with murderous blow either shall the glory blade Atreus' royal house o'erthrow, prone in dust for ever laid, or in freedom's sacred name, kindling fire and holy light, shall the rightful heir reclaim wealth and crown, his twofold right. Soul against the tyrant pair to such deadly grapple hies, Agamemnon's godlike heir, none to follow if he dies. Crown, O crown, the great emprise. Aegisthus, behind the scene.
Alas, woe's me, alas.
Chorus. Hark, hark again. How is't? What's wrought within? Stand we aloof while slaughter does her work, that of these ills we guiltless may appear, for now achieved the issue is of strife. The chorus retire to the further side of the tomb. Servant, rushing out of the palace. O woe, O grievous woe, our master slain! Yet once again and for the third time woe! Aegisthus is no more. With utmost speed. He knocks at the door of the women's palace. Fling open now, and of the women's doors the bars unloose. Full strength is needed here, not for the slain. What booteth aid to him? Alas, alas, what, shout I to the deaf, or clamour vainly in dull sleepers' ears? What doeth Clytemnestra? Where is she? Her neck it seems toucheth the razor's edge. Herself ere long shall perish, justly slain. Clytemnestra enters hurriedly, unattended.
What is't? What tumult raise ye in the house?
Servant.
The dead, I tell you, now the living slays.
Clytemnestra.
Alas, of these dark words the sense I catch. Through guile we perish, as through guile we slew. Quick, bring a deadly axe.
Exit servant.
We'll see anon whether we vanished are or vanisher, for to this crisis hath the evil come.
Orestes and Pylades come forth from the palace, the door of which remains open. Orestes.
Thee too I seek. He there hath had his due.
Clytemnestra.
Alas, beloved Aegisthus, art thou dead?
Orestes.
Dost love this man? With him in the same tomb, then shalt thou lie, still faithful found in death.
Clytemnestra.
Hold, hold, my son, revere my child, this breast from which a sleeping infant thou full oft, with toothless gums, thy nurture milk hast sucked.
Orestes.
Speak, Pylades, through filial reverence, shall I forbear to shed a mother's blood?
Pylades.
The Pythian oracles, still unfulfilled, where are they, and thine own firm-plighted vows? Choose all for foemen rather than the gods.
Orestes.
Thou hast prevailed, wisely thou promptest me.
To Clytemnestra.
So follow, by his side I thee would slay. In life thou didst exalt him o'er my sire. Since him thou lovest, sleep with him in death. Whom thou wast bound to love thou didst abhor.
Clytemnestra.
I nourished thee, with thee I would grow old.
Orestes.
Thou slayer of my father, dwell with me.
Clytemnestra.
Fate was, my child, accomplice in these woes.
Orestes.
And fate it is who doth this death ordain.
Clytemnestra. Does not a parent's curse revere my child?
Orestes. My mother, thou didst cast me forth for woe.
Clytemnestra. Not outcast wast thou in a friendly house.
Orestes. Sold doubly was I, scion of free sire.
Clytemnestra. Where then the price for which I bartered thee? Orestes.
It shameth me in sooth to charge thee home.
Clytemnestra. But tell with mine the errors of thy sire.
Orestes. Sitting at home blame not abroad who toils.
Clytemnestra.
For wives 'tis grievous to live spouseless, child.
Orestes.
The husband's toil supports the wife at home.
Clytemnestra.
Thy mother, O my child, art nerved to slay.
Orestes.
Thyself art guilty of thy death, not I.
Clytemnestra.
Take heed, beware thy mother's vengeful hounds.
Orestes.
Those of my sire how 'scapeth thee I spare.
Clytemnestra.
Living, vain moanings to a tomb I pour.
Orestes.
Aye, for my father's fate doth work thy doom.
Clytemnestra.
Ah me, this naked is I bare and reared.
Orestes.
Orestes, true prophet was thy dream engendered fear. Him thou didst slay whom thou shouldst not have slain, so doom unseemly suffer in thy turn.
Orestes drags his mother into the palace, followed by Pylades. Chorus.
E'en of this pair I weep the twofold woe, but since Orestes hath the bloody height achieved of dire revenge, one hope remains, not quenched the eye of Atreus' royal house.
Strophe 1.
Justice in time with heavy doom smote all of Priam's name, so Agamemnon to thy home, twin lions twofold Ares came, suppliant at Pythos' shrine, by oracles divine, sped on his way, the exile wins the game.
Strophe 2.
Hail jubilant the house redeemed from bale, the godless pair no more shall waste its gathered store. Hail, joyous riddance, hail.
Antistrophe 1.
Subtle of soul, requital came, dark veiled who joins the fight, daughter of Zeus, whom mortals name, Justice, their aim thus pointing right. She with firm hand the knife unsheaths for mortal strife, while 'gainst her foes she breathes destruction's blight.
Strophe 3.
For Loxias the king, who in Parnassian cavern holds his seat, doth vengeance hither bring, guilelessly guileful, lame yet sure her feet, weighty the utterance, the power divine, no consort is of guilt, needs must we pay homage to his heaven-ruling sway. Clearly the light doth shine.
Antistrophe 2.
Reft was I of the sun whose sudden ray did with new joy illume these halls, long sunk in gloom, it gleamed, then died away.
Antistrophe 3.
Anon, the cheering light, new kindled, in this house shall shine once more. What time with lustral rite, from the polluted hearth is purged the gore, and Ate put to flight, with form benign, Fortune, long time an alien, comes to claim her home, redeemed from shame, clearly the light doth shine. The scene opens, and Orestes is discovered standing over the bodies, Pylades with him and servants display the robe of Agamemnon. Orestes. Hold the tyrants of this land, the twain, my sire who murdered, and this palace reaved. Majestic once sat they upon their thrones, united now as by their fate appears, and faithful to their pledges e'en in death. Death to my wretched sire conjoined they swore, conjoined to die. Well have they kept their oath. But further, ye who hearken to these woes, mark this device. My wretched father's snare, his hands which fettered and his feet which yoked, unfold it, form a ring, and standing near, display the hero's death robe that the sire, not mine, but he who all these woes surveys, Helios, my mother's impious deeds may mark, so in my trial, at some future time, he by my side may stand, and witness bear that justly I did prosecute to death my mother. For of base Aegisthus' doom reeketh me not. He, as adulterer, the lawful forfeit of his crime hath paid, but for the woman who the snare devised against the husband, unto whom she bore the tender weight of children neath her zone, burden once dear, but now her deadly foe, what deem ye of her? A viper or torpedo, which by touch corrupteth where it bites not? True if judged for reckless daring and unrighteous will. How name this thing, using well-omened words? Toil for wild beast, the laver's ghastly pall, shrouding the dead man's feet? A net, a snare, mightest call it, or a feet-entangling robe. Such were some robbers' gear, whose trade it is strangers to dupe and plunder of their wealth, while slaying many a one with such device. With many a crime his seething brain might teem. May no such woman house with me. Ye gods, devote me rather to a childless death.
Chorus. Strophe. Alas, alas for doings fraught with doom. A loathsome death has brought thee to the tomb. Woe, woe. To the survivor grief is but in bloom. Orestes.
Did she the deed or not? To me this robe attests that she just this sword embrued. Behold the death-stain tallies with the time, marring the broidered garment's varied dyes. One while I praise my slaughtered sire anon. As present at the scene I wail his death. This robe invoking that achieved his doom. Deeds I lament, and woes in all my race. Pollution reaping from this victory.
Chorus. Antistrophe. Alas, alas, no son of mortal race unscathed life's pathway to the end may trace. Woe, woe. Fadeth one grief, another comes apace. Orestes.
That ye betimes may learn, since I myself know not the issue. For as charioteer with steeds ungoverned, from the course I swerve, thoughts past control are whirling me along. Their captive slave, while terror in my heart her pain and her frenzied dance prepares. Hear me, my friends, while reason holds her seat. With justice sanction I my mother smote, my father's slayer, a god-hated pest. As prime incitement to the daring act of Loxias I plead this oracle, that if I slew, blameless I should be held, but if I failed, my doom I will not speak. For bowshot cannot reach such mighty woe. And now behold, bearing this olive branch enwreathed with wool, as suppliant I seek earth's navel stone, Apollo's seat, which burns the flame of fire, deathless that hath been named, fleeing from kindred blood. For other hearth did Loxias forbid me to approach, and let all Argive men in after time bear witness for me how these woes were wrought. Living in exile from this land I roam, leaving behind, when dead, these fateful words.
Chorus. Noble thy deed, then yoke not now thy mouth to bodeful speech, nor vent ill-omened words, since thou, with lucky stroke lopping the head from serpent twain, all Argos' state hast freed. The Furies are seen rising in the background. Orestes.
Ah, ye handmaids, Gorgon-like they come, vested in sable stoles, their locks entwined with clustering snakes. No longer may I bide.
Chorus. Dearest of mortals to thy father, say, what fancies scare thee? Hold, yield not to fear.
Orestes. To me no woe-engendered fancies these. Too well I know my mother's vengeful hounds.
Chorus. Still reeking is the blood upon thy hand, hence is it that distraction smites thy brain. Orestes.
Apollo, Lord, swarming they press around, and from their eyes there drippeth loathsome gore.
Chorus. One cleanser hast thou, cling to Loxias, he will uphold thee, and will free from bale. Orestes.
These shapes ye see not, but I see them. Lo, they drive me forth, no longer can I bide.
He rushes out. Chorus. But blessings on thee, and in direst strait, may he who views thee graciously protect. While singing the following ode, the chorus enters the palace. Now in Mycenae's royal halls, the storm or Atreus race that lowers, running its course for the third time hath burst, child-devouring horror first, brooded o'er these walls, next a monarch's deadly bale, when the chief whom we bewail, war-leader to Achaea's martial powers, in the bath lay dead. Now, behold, a third is come, Saviour shall I say, or doom, from what quarter sped? Full accomplished when shall fate, lulled to rest, her stormy ire abate.